If you're from Africa and have been around for some time, then I have no doubt you have had or even experienced at least one rogue pastor scandal in your lifetime.
Well, a Nairobi court has allowed police to freeze 15 bank accounts belonging to Pastor Ezekiel Odero of New Life Prayer Center and Church for 30 days. This follows an application made by a DCI detective investigating Pastor Ezekiel of money laundering.
Moving on, in a shocking revelation, uncovered evidence of widespread abuse and tortures allegedly committed by the late C.B. Joshua, founder of one of the world's largest Christian evangelical churches.
Now to an extraordinary and shocking story from Kenya, where for the last month more than 200 bodies have been discovered in a forest there of people, including children, thought to have starved to death while under the influence of a cult run by an evangelical pastor. He's now in custody, but hundreds more people are still missing.
There is a reason why this happens more in Africa than anywhere else in the world, and today I will help you understand why. I will discuss 3 reasons that cause this. Africa boasts of a population of over 1.3 billion people, and a significant 40% identify as devout Christians, attending church at least once or twice a week. Unfortunately, within this, there have been numerous instances of rogue Christian practices, ranging from rape allegations, fraud, you name them. Interestingly, Asia, which has a substantial religious population of various religions, does not seem to face the same challenges. So what exactly is the problem? What happens or does not happen in Africa? I decided to do my research on this, and I've come up with 3 prominent reasons why Africa seems to be the hub of rogue Christianity. Reason number 1, poverty. This is the chain of events that translates poverty to rogue Christianity. It starts with poverty, desperation, a niche develops, charismatic leaders exploit the niche, emotional exploitation and promise of miracles, unwavering devotion and financial contributions, blind followers, perpetuation of the rogue pastor scandal. In many poverty-stricken areas across Africa, people face economic challenges, lack of resources, limited opportunities to move out of their low standards of living, etc. Due to poverty and challenging living conditions, these people experience a sense of desperation. They often seek quick solutions and improvements in their lives, including crime, lotteries, betting, and miracles.
Ninaachilia maisha mazuri, mafanikio. Wewe pepo mahali uko, ninakushika mateka kuanzia leo.
Yes.
Pepo ya umaskini, pepo ya kung'ang'ana,
yes,
pepo ya kutesa maisha ya mtu.
Yes.
Let's talk about the third one today. Miracles. Charismatic individuals see this desperation niche and see a way to gain power, wealth, and glory. What do I mean by charismatic? These are people who possess a compelling charm, eloquence, and a magnetic personality that draws people to them. I mean, take a look at this charismatic pastor speaking.
I am seeing a young man. You have a red jacket with something to cover the head. On Thursday, you're going to sit down with your lawyer because of a matter that started 2015. You were working with Marcus Koza. He's supposed to pay you 1.2 million rand. And he never paid you after the job. If you are here, come. Is he here?
Don't you just want to listen to them more? That there is what draws people to them. Taking advantage of the vulnerable emotional state of the congregation, these charismatic leaders exploit their emotions. They offer promises of miracles, financial prosperity, and solutions to their hardships. And as these charismatic leaders gain followers, and a sense of unwavering devotion develops among the community members. This devotion often translates into regular attendance at religious gatherings, obedience to their instructions, and a willingness to contribute financially. The followers get caught in a cycle of desperation and hope, disillusionment, renewed hope, and ultimately they become blind followers. This means they unquestioningly trust and follow their leader despite their conditions of living not changing as promised. To support my point on poverty being a reason for rogue Christianity, I made this map just to visually back my findings. In this map, the blue parts represent the most poverty-stricken areas in Nairobi. Now, the red dots represent churches present in this map. Churches are so common in poverty-stricken areas in Africa. This might be an arguable case of correlation or causation, but I'll let you be the judge of that. The second reason, lack of regulation and oversight. One of the main reasons we as the human species developed governments was protection. Protection of us, protection of the environment we live in, protection from ourselves, because the human conscience is dangerous. And if that's the case, why are African governments so reluctant to regulate religious institutions? And in this particular case, churches.
The shoe. Remove the shoe. You shoe no wrong, one shoe no wrong. Take your passport. Take your passport. Take your passport.
You might wonder why a profession like interior designers who have little to no effect on public safety or public's money have a regulatory body, but an institution that 80% of the population identifies with and interacts with once or more in a week has barely any regulation.
Kwanza hebu ni mtu anipe 1,000. Give me 1,000. Nipe 1,000.
And anyone can open a church and have control of individuals' behavior. You, for example, today can have a church up and running by Sunday. Yep. But I'll tell you why this is the case. It is not in the interests of those who set up regulatory institutions, in this case the government, to regulate Christian churches. This is because such a move will make them unpopular among voters, as it would be perceived as an attack on a very important part of culture.
Niko hapa na shilingi milioni 1 nitakupatia. Mpatie. Hapana, it's okay. Sawa. Hiyo ni shilingi milioni 1 utaenda kuongezea ile ya
I mean, as a political leader who got the position through the majority vote, you can't risk losing the support of your voters, and you therefore opt to not regulate the churches. An example is in the 2022 Kenyan election, the current president largely used the church to appeal to voters. He will visit at least one church every Sunday. And this, of course, will be televised. So as someone who got a lot of popularity due to his association with the church, he can't risk regulating the church, even if it is logical to do so.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
Reason number 3, the lack of education and information. With the poor educational reach in Africa than anywhere else, most people lack the critical thinking skills to scrutinize claims that pastors make. Their trust in these pastors makes them vulnerable to financial exploits and unwavering devotion. This show of lack of critical thinking skills shows itself very clearly among prosperity gospel doctrines and setups. A pastor might declare that followers who donate a specific amount of money as a seed will receive from the floodgates of heaven a huge return on their quote-unquote investment. But if the congregation will take their time to critically evaluate what their scriptures say regarding what their pastors tell them, they would realize that the Bible talks a lot about people with much helping those without, a concept the lavish pastors with a needy congregation ignore. Take a look at this verse, for example. 1 John chapter 3, verses 17 to 18. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. The pastors, contrary to this verse, build and buy mansions, cars, expensive suits, all while telling the needy congregants to give a seed, and the Lord will open the floodgates of heaven for them to become rich as the Lord has made him. Someone who has gone to school will critically see the misleading the pastor is doing. And as I conclude, I want you to listen to what Pastor Otterbill had to say about this topic.
Almost all the leading influencers in the world, not all, but almost all, are not Christians. The hierarchy of the richest people in the world, by the time you find a born-again, spirit-filled Christian, it will be getting down. And in almost every discipline. Could it be that our misunderstanding of grace and works has influenced our low work ethic? Could it be that the believers don't work hard? How come of the richest people in the world, you scarcely find a born-again, spirit-filled believer? There was a time that the richest people in the world were Christians. About 70 years ago, 50 years ago, all over the world, the richest companies in the world were headed by born-again Christians. And then a whole season came where the Christians were pushed out. Because there was a generation of Christians who understood grace and work, who have been replaced by a bunch of Christians who believe in grace and no work. And if we continue believing that, we can preach all the prosperity we want. Lay hands on all the people, give them handkerchiefs, give them water, give them oil, let them drink the oil, let them bath the oil, let them roll on the floor. We can do all of that, but we will constantly be marginalized as a people. Because we are undermining the rule of our own God. And if we continue, we'll make a lot of noise, but the world will push us further and further and further and further and further.